It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It is a very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's a Tuesday evening. It's time for ZiFM Sport in the house. Mike Madoda, Chris Midzi, Shonta Firenyika, our producer, and I'm Barry Manandi. And on the home front today, Zimbabwe Cricket will this week engage the government in a bid to get permission to travel to Pakistan for a limited over series against the hosts. In international sports news, we have our staple, which is the Formula 1 report, proudly brought to you by Zimoko, where Lewis Hamilton has called on Pirelli to provide Formula 1 with better tires for the sport.
In Around the World in 60, we'll be camping out stateside and will take off in Massachusetts, where Dustin Johnson has set his sights on an extended run at the top of the world rankings following his dominant 11-shot win at the Northern Trust. In New York, Andy Murray delivered the biggest win since his comeback from hip problems by knocking Alexander Zverev out of the Western and Southern Open. And then we'll touch down in Florida, where LeBron James scored 30 points to lead the LA Lakers to a dominant 135-115 Game 4 win over the Portland Trail Blazers as the NBA remembered Kobe Bryant on Mamba Day.
And in the second half of the show, as usual, we bring you the beautiful game, kicking off firstly on the continent, where Mamelodi Sundowns head coach Pitso Mosimane was proud to see his players claim their first PSL victory post-lockdown as they beat Golden Arrows 1-0 last night. In the Premier League, Harry Maguire is very unlikely to face any jail time if he is found guilty of charges of aggravated assault and attempted bribery of a police officer, as sources say the Manchester United captain could be stripped of his captaincy. And in La Liga, Philippe Coutinho is unsure what his future holds ahead of his return to Barcelona from Bayern Munich. And of course, we have some news from Syria. Manchester United star Chris Smalling has been handed a new lifeline in his desire to join Roma, according to reports.
But first, it's always our power play, and it's Topic Tuesday. So we call upon Iggy Azalea and Tinashe. This one's called Dance Like Nobody's Watching. I always do.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
We're available on social media at Mike Madoda. Very active account, that one. So is at Chris Midzi. That one's also very active. Barry Manandi, not so active, but still we can have a bit of banter there. At Shonta Firenyika, Stateside Sport, that's where you can camp out. Of course, there's at Gazaman14 for Alice Bunjira, the big man at Mark Pozzo, and then the show in general and sport in general at ZiFM Sport. Just follow them all and make your life so much simpler. Let's get into it. We start with the home front, where Zimbabwe Cricket will this week engage the government in a bid to get permission to travel to Pakistan for a limited over series against the hosts. Pakistan have since confirmed that they will host Zimbabwe between October and November, but ZC will need to convince the government to allow them to tour considering the coronavirus pandemic. The government has already cancelled what would have been a home T20 series against Afghanistan, while attempts at playing domestic cricket have also been thwarted. We caught up with former Zimbabwe Test cricketer and pundit Dirk Viljoen, who pointed out the benefits of some of the challenges surrounding Zimbabwe's tour to Pakistan.
Now, I think it's vitally important that not only from a Zimbabwe perspective, that the world over can try and return to some kind of normality. I think it's going to be a long road. From a sporting perspective, it's imperative that those kind of athletes are driven to continue to want to do the right thing, and the right thing is that sport continues. I sort of feel a little bit sorry for the athletes, and not Zimbabwe athletes, it's the world over, in what COVID has done. I think it's great news that the Pakistan board and the Zimbabwe board are looking at some options. I hope that it's not scampered by obviously protocols and having to do what World Health Organization requires you to do, and that's not an issue on health and safety, it's more an issue on cost implication, because I think that's where a lot of tours have fallen down, is that the idea of two unions wanting to play is great, but the minute that quarantine and isolation come into play, the cost implications just too big and tours have been cancelled. So I think it's great news. I'm glad that Zimbabwe are showing interest. I'm glad that Pakistan are wanting to invite them, and I hope that it's an example that other countries can look at in slowly opening up not just cricket but every sport, and let's hope that very soon it means that Zimbabwe can follow that blueprint and we can have sport back in Zimbabwe. I definitely look forward to that scenario where we can watch our international teams perform again.
Z.
All right, now government playing a supreme body, and rightfully so, as pertains to the coronavirus pandemic. ZC themselves need to make a compelling case as to why they need to travel. They know why, because there's money involved and also the need to play cricket, Mike. But certainly they've got some work to do with government.
Absolutely, Barry. They've got to convince government that it's in the interest of the game that the Chevrons be allowed to travel to Pakistan. The good thing for government is that they'll be able to liaise with the Pakistani counterparts to find out what the situation is on the ground in cities such as Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, etc., where these games will probably be played, and see if it's possible for Zimbabwe to go out there. We've seen the Pakistan cricket team in action right now. They are out in England, and obviously England has been able to establish those bubbles where cricket can be played, sport can be played, as we've seen in the Premier League as well. And so that hasn't been a worry. Now, whether Pakistan has got the capacity to create the same in their own country is something that our government, as well as Zimbabwe Cricket, will need to take into consideration. I also want to go back, Barry, to the decision that was taken by government to cancel that tour of Afghanistan. I really felt that I think Zimbabwe's government was a bit rash in that decision because COVID hasn't really hit us to a level where there should have been any worry around hosting a team like Afghanistan and seeing cricket played, let's say at Harare Sports Club or even at Queen's, because the cricket associations between those two nations, Afghanistan and Zimbabwe, have within them the capacity to create that bubble that we've always been talking about, that safe and healthy environment. I think we talked about something similar with ZiFM and our Warriors, and we noted the financial challenges that will be involved for ZiFM, but the same can't be said for cricket. I think cricket are well able to create that safe zone around, let's say, a Harare Sports Club, one of the hotels in the city, let's say a Cresta Lodge, which is has been the hotel of choice for many touring teams in recent years, and get cricket played, because the financial benefits for cricket, Barry, are huge, and they're absolutely immense, and I think they cannot miss out on these opportunities. And yes, we put finance first because finance drives the game, but also for our cricketers, many who are now approaching their twilight years, to get a bit of game time.
A bit of game time is sorely required, Chris, and one feeds off the other, doesn't it? Because Mike points out there the abortive tour of Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. Is that not a sign of ZC's ability to argue their case? Because in truth, ZC should have been able to argue their case to the Ministry of Sport, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to the fact that they could create a biosecure environment and ensure that Afghanistan was safe and cricket could be played quite decently, and then obviously earn the sorely needed TV money, and also ensure that cricket is being played. Is that a sign of how good or how bad ZC can argue the case?
Not necessarily. I think I'd point to the fact that ZC and government relations haven't been the best I'm going to say in recent years, in recent times, we've seen them go a bit of back and forth when it comes to, first of all, the governance around Zimbabwe Cricket and how things were being done there. We've seen the SRC step in, we've seen them go all the way up to the ICC together. So those fractured relations, I think, are part of the issue. But also when you take a look at the actual ability of Zimbabwe taking the responsibility of hosting a tournament, that T20 tournament, it's like we talked about yesterday, do we have the actual capacity? And how many people are going to be involved in creating this biosecure environment? Is it possible? I think arguing the fact that they would like to travel to a different country and the onus is on this host country to basically ensure that that bubble exists is a little bit different, because the onus is not necessarily on Zimbabwe Cricket. What Zimbabwe Cricket needs to do is obviously ensure the safety of their players, but in terms of the logistics, in terms of ensuring that it's possible, I think then that would rest on Pakistan. And if they're able to do that, like Mike pointed out, these are discussions that can be had between the two governments to say, this is the kind of environment we've created, this is what the players are going to be required to do, and it is possible, then I think that's more of a conversation. But in terms of us as Zimbabwe, I think in terms of even just taking a look at our health sector, it might be a little bit tricky to say, if something were to happen, what's the worst, taking a look at the worst case scenario, would we be able to handle it? And for me, the answer is no.
Obviously, there's paperwork being shuffled between PCB and ZC to show that that biosecure environment has been created. We understand that Pakistan is running around creating that bubble you were talking about, Mike. And so to buttress the case that we put forward to our government, obviously that will go through and then government can verify that with the Pakistani government. However, the key component... Yeah, Mike.
Listen, I wanted to say that I think when we take a look at this situation, government plays a supporting role, but their role is not to be the ones who are creating this biosecure environment around which the sport is going to be played. That is the responsibility of Zimbabwe Cricket. And again, I go back to the point that I feel that Zimbabwe Cricket has got the resources and the funding and the support of the ICC. The ICC would love to see cricket being played. That's why they've been supportive of the initiatives that we have seen in England, where we've seen the West Indies tour, we've seen Pakistan tour. The Australian cricket team landed in England just 3 days ago for a 3-match one-day international series, and they're receiving the full support of the ICC. There's no reason why the ICC would not support cricket being played in Zimbabwe. But I have a feeling that it goes down to the plan that's coming out of Zimbabwe Cricket and not necessarily the plan that's coming out of Zimbabwe government, because it's not the Zimbabwe government's responsibility to be coming up with a plan. It's Zimbabwe Cricket that should come up with a plan of how cricket can be played in the country and then get the government to support them. So areas, for example, like the airport, areas like security, etc., those are areas where government certainly can support Zimbabwe Cricket. But in terms of the facilities, in terms of the training, in terms of the match venue, in terms of the medical side of things, getting the medical support services, these are fully insured international cricketers, and we have enough private facilities in Zimbabwe to make sure that they get that sort of support.
And that is in the case of an incoming, this one being the outgoing tour, where we're traveling across to Pakistan. We understand that Zimbabwe Cricket has already been advised that the cricket traveling party would need to undergo a 2-week quarantine, a 14-day quarantine.
Exactly, and that's what that's what we saw with Pakistan and West Indies, where they had to quarantine, they had to go through a series of tests before they landed in England. So the same thing would then apply to our players if they're going to Pakistan, so that when they get to Pakistan, they are COVID-free.
Yeah.
So the same thing would have obtained for Afghanistan. Had they been allowed to come here, we would have been receiving players at Harare International Airport or at RGM who would have been COVID-free.
Sure, absolutely. And we understand that Tawenga Mkutlane, the board chair at Zimbabwe Cricket, and his team will be approaching government this week on the proposed tour. We wish them well, because we would want to see Zimbabwe playing cricket. Indeed, we want to see all sports come back, but if there's an opportunity for cricket to be played in Pakistan with Zimbabwe participating, let it be so.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe Cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport. Z.
Right, let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with golf, where Zimbabwe professional golfer Scott Vincent has been doing well in the European Tour, where he has taken part in 5 tournaments since the resumption of the sport at the end of last month. The Harare-born player moved from the Asian Tour and has featured in the ISPS Wales Open, the Celtic Classic, English Championship, Hero Open, and the Betfred British Masters in the past 2 months. This week, Vincent will be teeing off at the ISPS Honda UK Championship at the iconic Belfry, Sutton Coldfield in England. In rugby news, Zimbabwe rugby international Tapiwa Tsomondo has made a massive leap in his professional rugby career after completing a move to French rugby club Aubenas Vaal from South African Currie Cup First Division side Boland Cavaliers. The 27-year-old Looseford, who is a member of the Zimbabwe Rugby 7 side, the Cheetahs, arrived in France on Sunday to complete his move to the club ahead of the new season, which begins next month. According to a statement on the club's website, Tsomondo will go through the mandatory 4-week health protocol decreed by the French Rugby Federation due to COVID-19 before joining the rest of the squad ahead of the new campaign. We wrap it up with athletics, where the Bulawayo Athletics Board is hopeful the intercity travel ban will be lifted in time for the Interprovincial Championships next month. The annual event is for the last weekend of September and will be the first athletics event since sporting events were suspended in March if it goes ahead. BAB chairperson Manuel Mpofu said they will continue with preparations for the meet despite uncertainty still clouding hosting of the event.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil, get up to speed on the Formula One Report. The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimbabwe, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, specialized service for special brands.
The Formula One Report proudly brought to you by Zimbabwe, and we would like to remind our customers and potential customers that when you buy a vehicle from Zimbabwe, you're not just buying a car, you're buying a service which no other non-authorized dealer can offer. Zimbabwe is the sole distributor of Mercedes-Benz, Jeep, Mitsubishi, Fiat and Haval vehicles in Zimbabwe, and is fully supported by the manufacturers of each of these awesome brands.
Now, all of these brands of vehicles which are bought through Zimbabwe come with manufacturer's warranty, which is one of the most important aspects when considering buying a car. Some of you may wonder what warranty means. Now, a warranty is the manufacturer's promise to repair or replace a part in the vehicle if it malfunctions free of charge within a certain time frame or mileage. And in most cases, our brands offer 2 to 3 years or 100,000 kilometers warranty on all our brands of new vehicles.
Also bear in mind that warranty is only valid if you service your vehicle through Zimbabwe, so don't get tempted to go elsewhere. Just think, if your vehicle's engine malfunctions and you need a completely new engine and yet you don't have warranty, it can end up being a very expensive purchase. Remember, you need to get specialized service for specialized brands, and you only get that from Zimbabwe. Stay tuned for more.
Z.
Lewis Hamilton has called on Pirelli to provide Formula One with better tyres for the sport. Pirelli has been Formula One's sole tyre supplier since 2011, a period of the sport that has been characterized by high levels of tyre degradation. The aim has been to create races with multiple pit stops and varying strategies, but the reality has often seen drivers lapping several seconds off the pace to manage their tyres and ensure a one-stop strategy. Now, Barry, this is one aspect that we really talk about here on the show. Indeed, when a lot of people are talking about Formula One, it always centers on the reliability of the car, on the engine upgrades, on performance, on speed, on strategy, on the drivers. But the tires are fundamental to performance.
They are fundamental to performance, and in theory, races with high levels of tyre degradation should create differences in performance between cars, leading to overtaking. But drivers often complain that they cannot attack the car in front as they need to look after their tyres. And this has come into stark contrast as a result of the fact that they are now racing in very hot weather. We saw it at Silverstone, the second race at Silverstone. We saw it in Catalonia, where the tyre wear was particularly bad. I'm not surprised it's Lewis Hamilton coming out and saying this, because we know that Mercedes suffered the most because of the amount of downforce on their vehicle. So it caused a lot of degradation, and we know he limped over the line in one of the most recent races, with actually one having a blowout. So that situation is not encouraged. But at the same time, look, if to have a fast car with lots of downforce, you've got one advantage. The fact that it's now degrading your tires at a higher rate, you need to change your issue. I don't think this one is completely on Pirelli because other teams aren't having the same sort of problems.
Yeah, and also there seems to be a bit of an issue, because at the end of last year, Formula One teams are reported to have rejected the tyres that Pirelli had developed for the 2020 season, which were intended to actually work in a wider temperature window and suffer less degradation. So they turned those ones down, saying that they didn't perform as great. They are now suffering from degradation, and they are complaining, especially Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, of course. I think that's the team, Chris, that has been affected the most by the degradation of these tyres. But if you take a look at the plans from FIA, this change is not going to happen soon, because they are going to be using these same tyres for at least the next couple of seasons.
So yeah, they're going to be using these tyres for a little bit longer, and the Pirelli boss actually came out and says that the FIA's plan to trim Formula One's downforce levels in 2021 to help the tyre company is more a matter of performance than safety. I think we've seen throughout the last couple of races, especially Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton not necessarily going and lapping as fast as he would like, because of the fact that they'd like to control the number of times that they actually do change the tyres, that one-stop strategy, being able to maintain that, and they've suffered the most in terms of the tyres. So they're going to be using them for a little bit longer, which I think Mercedes it's going to be something that they need to deal with more than the tyre manufacturer, because of the fact that this is only likely going to change for 2021.
Barry, giving the driver something to think about, giving the pit something to think about, surely that adds to the dynamic of the race.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm not even considering or even listening to what the drivers are saying. In truth, you can't have the your cake and eat it too. You've come up with the secret sauce, Mercedes, to create this fantastic car, and we know the Silver Arrows have got in fact this season more straight line speed and cornering speed than any other team. Now you can't have that and then say that because of your downforce, your tires are getting degraded a lot faster than anyone else. Now you complain and say the tires have a problem. No, you need to deal with it. Dealt it with very well in the last Grand Prix, because Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas managed their tire wear by slowing down the speeds at the start when the temperature was a bit high. So do that. And as you quite rightly say, Mike, it adds to the dynamic of the race. This is what we want to see. We want to see drivers thinking, the pit wall thinking, your race engineer thinking about what they're doing, not just a procession for Mercedes.
Something to think about. Well, will we see them thinking about it, and will it become a factor this coming Sunday? Because that's when the Belgian Grand Prix is going to be. So if you are a Formula One fan, this Sunday, it's race day. A reminder of the standings in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton is leading the way, 132 points. Max Verstappen is in second on 95. Valtteri Bottas in third on 89. Charles Leclerc, Ferrari, on 45 points is in fourth. And Lance Stroll is having a very good season for Racing Point. He's on 40 points in fifth position. The constructors' standings, no surprise to see Mercedes at the very top with a very healthy lead. 221 points they have, followed by Red Bull on 135. Racing Point, they are in third with 63 points. McLaren is 62 in fourth. And Ferrari, the Scuderia, they're in fifth with 61 points.
Z.
Now, Zamoka's workshops have highly trained technicians trained specifically for each brand of vehicle, partnered with state-of-the-art tools and highly specialized diagnostic equipment, which communicates directly with the manufacturers to fix the problems on your vehicle. Our parts department at Zamoka fully stocked with all the spare parts necessary to keep your vehicle on the road.
Baz, how many accidents have you had? Be honest. I mean, in your little career, as it were, as a driver, how many have you had? How many scraps have you been involved in?
I've had a couple of major ones where the vehicle is out of commission, and then fender benders 4.
Shucks, so you're a danger on the road. My God.
And Mike, it's pulling out of parking and doing a little bit of a scrap and that sort of thing. How many accidents have you had?
I think I've had 3. So anyway, the advice is, if you do meet Barry and myself on the road, you need to be careful. Steer clear. And in the unfortunate event that we do have a scrap, and we get involved in an accident, and you happen to get that annoying scratch on your vehicle, remember that the body repair center at Zimbabwe is equipped to restore your vehicle to new with state-of-the-art spray boots, which are able to match the exact color of your vehicle. Our body repair center is also open to all makes and models of vehicles, from a Honda Fit to a Mercedes Maybach. Our team is ready to get your vehicle back on the road in no time. Now that is specialized service for special brands, only from Zimbabwe, your preferred vehicle supplier.
The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimbabwe, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, specialized service for special brands.
Hi, my name's Ryan Kens, Sunshine Tour professional golfer, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in Massachusetts, where Dustin Johnson has set his sights on an extended run at the top of the world ranking following his dominant 11-shot win at the Northern Trust. Johnson feels he is back in similar form to when he was first ranked world number 1 in 2017, a position he held for 64 consecutive weeks, and his 25th professional victory at TPC Boston has taken him back to the summit for the 6th time. The 36-year-old has spent a total of 92 weeks as world number 1, good enough for 5th on all-time list, and he now hopes to buck the trend of the jumping around at the summit in recent weeks, with the top ranking changing hands 4 times since mid-July. We head over to New York, where Andy Murray delivered the biggest win since his comeback from hip problems by knocking Alexander Zverev out of the Western and Southern Open. The 33-year-old, playing his first competitive tennis in 9 months in New York, was aiming to build on his impressive opening round performance against Francis Tiafoe against the big-hitting German, and delivered on all fronts with a stunning 6-3, 3-6, 7-5 success. Which is down in Florida, where LeBron James scored 30 points to lead the LA Lakers to a dominant 135-115 Game 4 win over the Portland Trail Blazers, as the NBA remembered Kobe Bryant on Mamba Day. Anthony Davis had 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 18 minutes before exiting the third quarter due to back spasms, as Los Angeles took a 3-1 lead in the best-of-7 series. Portland star Damian Lillard also departed in the third quarter with a right knee injury and just 11 points in 27 minutes.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. The beating drum. The roaring fans. Take a ride on the wild side with the Africa Report on ZiFM Sport.
As advertised on yesterday's show, today we camp out in the ABSA Premier Soccer League. It won't be known as the ABSA Premier Soccer League for much longer, but certainly until the end of the season. Who will be crowned champions? Will it be Kaizer Chiefs, who top the standings, or those that are chasing them down, who are Mamelodi Sundowns, who sorely needed a win yesterday? And their head coach, Pitso Mosimane, was proud to see his players claim their first PSL victory post-lockdown as they beat Golden Arrows 1-0 last night. The Brazilians have struggled for form following the 5-month hiatus as they lost 1 and drew 3 of their first 4 league games back in action. However, they bounced back against Arrows to clinch a narrow win thanks to a stoppage time winner from Themba Zwane at Dobsonville Stadium. Let's hear from Pitso Mosimane.
Yeah, it's heavy, it's tough, it's not easy. Heavy on the players, heavy on us. And we deserve a break. We've tried so much, we've been fighting and it just shows when you don't give up, you keep hitting the door, the hinges will go and the door will open. And thanks God, 2 super subs, Themba Zwane, but I'm happy the ball come from Lebo because he's also been having a lot of stress and pressure. What a pass Lebo provided. It only shows that if you keep trying, it's never late, you keep going, Nothing is in our hands, but we will fight until the end.
A victory they sorely needed, did the Amasawandawana, Mike, because in order to keep the pressure on, especially given that they're playing Chiefs on Thursday, they would need to be within striking distance. Now, 3 points behind, it's all to play for.
Yeah, all to play for, Barry. The two sides that are gunning for glory in South Africa, both sides, Barry, they don't have any momentum whatsoever. Both sides are not playing well. Both sides look like they don't want to win it. In fact, this resembles the restart in Italy, where Juventus kept dropping points, but the chasing pack was not good enough to capitalize because Kaizer Chiefs, if the truth be told, have given Mamelodi Sundowns enough of a look in. If Sundowns had been playing good football, if Sundowns had been in peak form, they should have been enjoying maybe even a 6-point lead by now because Kaizer Chiefs have been woeful. But what this victory did, Barry, is that it just means that there's all to play for when these two teams clash. It's almost a winner-takes-all scenario for the two teams when they clash in that game. I was listening to a former Orlando Pirates and, of course, a former Sundowns midfielder, Teko Modise, the man that they called the General. And he was talking about Mamelodi Sundowns and saying that it looks like teams have sussed Pitso Mosimane out. They now know how to play against his team. He's got to change his tactics. He's got to refresh his methods so that he hits teams a bit differently from the way that he's been doing over the last 5 seasons, because the amount of even small teams, as it were, that are able to get a result against Mamelodi Sundowns, the amount of teams that are able to make it very difficult for Sundowns. This game here, Barry, a 90th minute winner. That's what it took to get over the line against Golden Arrows, a team that in previous seasons, they would have hit 3 or 4 passes. So there is a problem there. And Pitso Mosimane, I think, has got to refresh the way he approaches matches and his tactics so that he gets Sundowns moving forward, because they have got good players. But even good players playing in a stale system will be found out.
Hard-headed at the best of times is Pitso Mosimane, Chris. And in truth, it's good advice coming from the General Teko Modise that he needs to change the way that he does things. He hasn't. And Steve Kompela found him out here last night because in truth, he went 94 minutes without getting the goal and then only getting it in stoppage time thanks to Themba Zwane. And that's a sign that Steve Kompela had got his tactics right for Golden Arrows and even created 1 or 2 look-ins that had they gone another way, Golden Arrows could have actually been leading this match and it could have gone horribly wrong for Mamelodi Sundowns. So Pitso Mosimane has to make a decision, doesn't he?
He definitely needs to make a decision. I think what we've seen with every single restart is that the teams that are able to get out of the blocks the fastest, the teams that are able to get to match fitness, as it were, the fastest, the lockdown almost evens out the playing field, as it were. And if in scenarios like this, you don't get those tactics correct, you're in a situation where, like Pitso Mosimane was last night, where you're hanging on and it's up against a team that normally you'd be able to beat pretty easily. So I think it's kudos to Steve Kompela that they managed to hang on for that long and to get this kind of a result. But also Mamelodi Sundowns need to really do some introspection, change those tactics, do what works in every single match, because they're only 3 points behind. Going into this next game, they'll have a little bit more confidence after this win, but they need to be able to get convincing wins for the remaining match days, and also just continue to mount that pressure, because if a team like Kaizer Chiefs is looking at them at the moment, they're not necessarily threatened. This is a team they can still hold their own against, just from taking a look at, for example, last night's performance.
And the next match is the big one, obviously. It's Sundowns versus Chiefs. Mike, you called it a winner takes all. Yes, Sundowns having problems, but in truth, when they look at their opponents on Thursday night, Kaizer Chiefs themselves are not doing too flash. They're not looking too flash whatsoever. You've got a scenario where their prized possession, the one that cost them the most, the one that they actually stole from Sundowns, Karma Billiard, failing to fire. And it's a team that's bereft of goals and in actual fact is conceding. So Sundowns themselves will be quietly confident about Thursday evening.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be quietly confident, Barry, and they know that if they play a good game, that they should be able to get some purchase out of Kaizer Chiefs. But Kaizer Chiefs also have the motivation of knowing that if they beat Sundowns, I think we can all say that it's over, bar the shouting. I think Kaizer Chiefs will be able to negotiate their way to a league title, because this is the classic 6-pointer, isn't it? If Sundowns fail to win, the gap, which is 3, becomes 6 points. If they do manage to win Sundowns, then they are level on points. What Kaizer Chiefs have going for them at the moment is the fact that they've got a far superior goal difference. I think it's plus 22 compared to Mamelodi Sundowns, who have got plus 15. So they got a couple of things. They got a get out of jail card, even if they lose Kaizer Chiefs. They'll just need to make sure that they win every game after that until the end of the season. Match the result that Sundowns is able to produce on any given match day and make sure that they see it home. So it's going to be a good one, this one. Both teams not playing good football, but with so much at stake.
Chris, a quick question to you. You're Ernst Middendorp. You're waking up on Thursday morning. You've got to make a decision. Last time you subbed Karma Billiard off at halftime. You threw on Lazarus Kambole. Lazarus Kambole delivered a goal that gave you a point out of a game that looked like you weren't going to get anything. What decision do you make? You wake up and say what?
I wake up and say Karma's on the bench. Karma needs to start on the bench. And the reason for that is, I think in the last match, it was abundantly clear. You had a situation where Kambole came on, and within the first 10 minutes of him coming on, he had managed to score that goal. So it's a distinct difference from Karma, who is not working hard enough. He doesn't look like he even wants to play, and he's there or thereabouts throughout the 90 or so minutes, and it's simply not good enough, not for a player of his ilk. He needs to be working a lot harder. He needs to be scoring goals, and if he's not able to do that, this is the time to make that decision, because there's not a lot of time left and there's no room to be walking into a match day with a Karma who you don't know whether they're going to deliver. I would definitely be starting Kambole in the next game.
And it might be the kick up the backside that Karma needs, Barry, the motivation that he needs to get back to his best, because he can't complain that Ernst Middendorp hasn't given him a chance. He has stuck with him. He has been patient. He has selected him even when he hasn't exactly been giving Kaizer Chiefs value. So this time, I would love to see how he would respond to being put on the bench in a big game against his former paymasters, in a game his team needs to win for glory. Give him 30 minutes in that game. See if he's able to light it up in 30 minutes. But if he sulks and he whinges, then it speaks more about the character of the man, that he may not be up to scratch mentally to be a Kaizer Chiefs player. Because right now his return, I think just the solitary goal, Barry, in about 20 odd matches, it's not good enough.
September.
Yeah, it's not good enough. You've got to do more. So you haven't delivered in several weeks. I'm going to say last few weeks. So you haven't delivered in several months. So you really can't complain if the coach starts you on the bench. No. You can't. But use that as motivation to prove him wrong.
Yeah, prove him wrong indeed. In the opposite dugout, Peter Mosimane will have a decision to make himself. He started out, of course, up front with Neza and Serino. They didn't fire. And when he brought on Tembazwane and the man they call Villa, Sibusiso Vilakazi, it all started to fire. So he's got some decisions to make as well. But the big one is happening at Orlando Stadium. It's on Thursday evening. It is a 6-pointer for the championship. Almost a winner takes all. It certainly makes for some very interesting watching come Thursday evening. Don't miss out on that one. Well, there's also a brace for the Golden Boot. Coutinho of Orlando Pirates leads the standings. He's tied with Peter Shalulile of Highlands.
Yes. Best striker in the league.
You reckon?
Yeah, Shalulile, I think, is the best striker in the league, Barry. Their team doesn't get penalties. They don't create as much. But whenever I've watched Shalulile play for Highlands Park, he gets a chance. He makes teams pay. He's able to latch onto half chances and score. He's able to create space for himself. So he's that sort of striker. I would love to see how he does in a bigger team, in a team that creates more, because for me, he's a marksman. Yeah. He's a pure number 9. He's done it in the NFD, in the first division. Took a while to get going in the Premier League, but he's now delivering for Highlands Park. So for me, I think he's the best striker. If he was at Orlando Pirates, at Kaizer Chiefs, at Mamelodi Sundowns, I reckon he gets 20 goals.
He'll be scoring for fun. Well, it helps him that Coutinho Mango at Orlando Pirates has gone a little bit dry since the restart. He hasn't found the back of the net, so there could be an opportunity for Shalulile to steal the golden march on the golden boot there. In tied third are Bradley Krobler of Supersport United and Samir Nukovic, a player who won't be featuring in the match against Sundowns because he has accumulated yellow cards. Your upcoming fixtures tonight. It's Black Leopards taking on Supersport United tomorrow. Tomorrow night it's Black Leopards taking on Supersport United. On Thursday it's Bloemfontein Celtic versus Bidvest Wits, and then the big one is at 6 p.m. local time, Kaizer Chiefs versus Mamelodi Sundowns. I say local time as if they're in a different time zone. Anyway, you'll forgive me. I'm holding the mic right now. Next is the Premier League.
All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
News out of England is that Harry Maguire is very unlikely to face any jail time if he's found guilty of charges of aggravated assault and attempted bribery of a police officer, as sources say the Manchester United captain could be stripped off his captaincy. The United captain spent 2 nights in police custody after he was arrested during a holiday with family and friends on the Greek island of Mykonos. Police say that there had been an altercation and an exchange of words with an officer who tried to break up a fight. Now, this story, Chris, has been dominating the news in England. Understandably, Harry Maguire at the very center of it, and discussions around what he did in Greece and whether it's appropriate for not only the captain of Manchester United, but one of England's senior players.
It's been in the news. What's interesting is the tone that's being used whenever you see the articles, when you see the social media comments, and just it's almost being taken like he was the victim in the scenario, and it's just you find complete contrasts with your darker-skinned.
Do you feel, Chris, that the media is perhaps trying to make excuses for him?
Making excuses for him and writing the story incredibly factually. There's no sway, there's no... I just feel that they'd be writing it a lot differently if he was a different hue, because we've seen it with other players. If the scenario had happened and say...
Raheem Sterling, Paul Pogba...
Raheem Sterling, Paul Pogba, if they had been the ones in this particular scenario, first of all, we wouldn't still be calling him the captain of Manchester United. He would have been stripped of that immediately, but we're still calling him the captain. Likelihood is he may retain captaincy, but it's just, for me, the stark contrast in the reporting is incredible. If you take a look at the story with Raheem Sterling, who was at a private party, at Usain Bolt's private party, and there happened to be a situation with COVID-19. Someone might have been positive there. But the telling of the story is completely different, and there's a lot of reprimand in the articles, in the social media comments. But when it comes to Harry Maguire, it's he's the victim in this scenario, and it's so telling of, first of all, the British media, but also fans.
As a United fan, Chris, I just want to ask you this. Do you stick with him as captain?
Absolutely not. This is not anything that we should be hearing a captain should be doing. I think he should have been stripped of the captaincy as soon as they established what happened.
Right, Barry, Chris says should strip him off the captaincy, and this is coming in a season where Manchester United has been Jekyll and Hyde, Barry, in terms of their performances on the field of play. 3 semi-finals and a season where, once again, we are talking about Manchester United underperforming. In terms of meeting the expectations of fans. And this will only serve to heap more pressure on Harry Maguire as the leader of the team.
Yeah, it will. And in truth, if we look at those 3 semi-finals that they managed to get to, the reason why they didn't make the step up and get to the final of each of those competitions is largely as a result of lack of leadership. And so for me, on that basis, and then obviously then what he's done subsequent in the off-season and this altercation in Greece, I would say that no, he's not the right man to lead Manchester United. Manchester United has always had great captains. Is Harry Maguire a great captain? No, I don't think so. I think for me, I even see more leadership traits in Victor Lindelof than I do in Harry Maguire. So I think there needs to be some consideration there.
Some La Liga news. Philippe Coutinho is unsure what his future holds ahead of his return to Barcelona from Bayern Munich. Coutinho completed his loan spell at Bayern, winning the Champions League title after a 1-0 victory over Paris Saint-Germain in the final on Sunday. The Brazil international is expected to make a permanent move from Barcelona this close season. The former Liverpool star linked with a return to the Premier League. Barry, for you, he didn't have a good time at Barcelona initially. Obviously, he goes out on loan, but it looks like he might be a part of the plans for Barcelona going forward.
I think it should be, rightly so, because we've seen him put in performances and shifts for Bayern Munich. Remember, he's returning to Barcelona as a treble winner and having played an active part in winning the league in Germany, the DFB Pokal, and then ultimately winning the Champions League. So, in truth, to then want to send a player like that on his way, especially when you're talking about renewing the project at Barcelona, I think that would be folly on behalf of the leadership at Barcelona. I think they keep him. I think he does a job under Koeman. He's a Koeman-type player because Koeman is going back to the roots of Barcelona, passing, possession-based, intense football. Coutinho can deliver that.
Mike, if you take a look at the news that we had seen circulating before, Philippe Coutinho wanting to go back to play in the Premier League, what would you say is the best move for him right now? Return to Barcelona, a Barcelona that's in the process of a rebuild, or possibly move back to England?
Well, you're at Barcelona, so you're already at the biggest club in the world. It's a Barcelona side that's saying that they need you, they want to play you. Koeman has come out and spoken about the fact that he wants Coutinho in his plans. So for me, you stay at Barcelona. Coming to England, I don't see Man City making a move. I don't see Liverpool getting him back on board. And so if you're not going to play for those two teams who have got realistic hopes of challenging for silverware, what's the point of leaving Barcelona?
We're running out of time, so we'll wrap it up in Italy, where Chris Smalling of Manchester United has been handed a lifeline in his desire to join Roma. According to reports, apparently Manchester United didn't like the offer that was made by Roma for on-loan Smalling, so they decided to recall him. But it looks like Roma wants to persist and get the man that they want. We're talking about leadership at Manchester United. In truth, if they could get Smalling back, that's the leader that they actually need. But he doesn't want to go back. He'd rather play in Italy. And fair dues to him because he's enjoying his football. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back tomorrow and we'll go again. Don't miss it. May God richly bless you. That's my story. and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.